Hello everyone. Thank you for being here. A big thank you to Janardhana for putting this together. It's great to be a part of Tenerife summer sessions. Today, I want to talk about something I deal with literally every week in my job, how AI is changing the way big companies catch risk before it becomes a problem. So instead of finding out about it, after the damage is already done, so this is my presentation. So a quick intro about myself. I'm Janardhana. I go by Jana. I'm the director of BI at ADP. So I lead the business intelligence at ADP. So if you don't know ADP, we are the biggest HR and payroll companies in the world. We serve over 1 million businesses run on our platform. Now, everything I'm sharing today isn't a theory I read in a book. No, it's stuff is actually lived through building and breaking and fixing this system inside a massive enterprise. So let's take it as a field notes, like not a lecture. So I so the title talk I would like to really talk today is like the from reactive reporting to predictive risk intelligence. But really it's simple. It's the story of going from oh no, that already happened to hey, I think this is about to happen. So let's do something now. We'll go through, every most companies are stuck today, what actually changes. Then I'll get into two different chapters, catching risk earlier and building machine learning systems that don't quietly fall apart on you. Then we'll talk about how to upgrade what you already have without blowing it up, and we'll end with there is all about the agentic AI. So yeah, I'm happy to talk about those. So let's jump in. The challenge today we have. Okay, so let's talk about the problem first, because I think it's important to be honest about where most companies actually are. Most BI systems really were built to tell you what already happened. That's it. And for a while, that was really fine. But things moving forward, the things are moving very faster now. So market move faster, regulations are tighter, operations are more complex, and just looking backward, it's not enough anymore. Like there are really, I can say, three problems I see over it. First one, latency. By the time you see the risk in the report, it's already happened. So you basically reading the, like obituary. It's already happened. Second is volume. There's just so much data coming in that your analysts can't physically keep up. So they're really drowning. There's a lot of data coming up. And the third, obviously, fragmentation. Your systems don't talk to each other. So a pattern that would be obvious if you connected finances, operations, and outside data, you just can't see it because everything in its own little silo. So those three things, the latency, the volume, the fragmentation, that's basically the whole problem in a nutshell. So I see, I want to say the opportunity. So what does AI actually do differently? I like to think of it as a four-step ladder. Four-step ladder, the bottom rung is descriptive. What happened? So this is where most companies lie. The dashboards, the reporting, looking into the rear view mirror, it's already there. The next run is diagnosed. Why did it happen? A little deeper still, but still backward looking. And then predictive, yes, what's probably going to happen? This is where the AI starts earning its keep. You're using a patterns from the past to see around the corner. So on the top rank perspective, talk about this, what should we actually do about it? Just not predicting, but recommending the moves, sometimes even taking it automatically. So most companies are, stuck on the bottom two ranks. The whole opportunity is here, and as you can see, the rest of the stock is just about climbing that ladder. Um, so I just want to say, what are the core AI capabilities today? So there are three things are doing the heavy lifting to make that climb possible. One is machine learning. The models really trained on historical patterns that can surface a signal before it turns into a full-blown problem. The second thing is obviously anomaly detection. So basically automatically spotting when something looks off, so your team isn't manually starting at like all screening all day. That's the anomaly detection. Coming to the intelligence data processing, it's like very unglamorous plumbing that pulls in data from everywhere, so cleans it up and make it sense of it in nearly real time. So I want to spend the next two chapters really, digging into first two of these, catching risk earlier and building pipelines that actually hold up once you put them into the production. So the chapter one, like detecting the risk earlier. All right. The whole idea here is moving the moment you catch something from after it happened to right before it's about to happen. So three things makes this genuinely hard. So one, obviously, the cost of waiting. So by the time a traditional report shows you a risk, a cheap window to fix it has already closed. So the longer it takes you to notice, the more expensive it gets. Or the second one is like signal versus noise. So your systems are throwing off a ton of signals constantly, like without machine learning, helping filter that out. Your analysts genuinely can't tell what's a real problem versus just a normal day-to-day noise. Now, coming to the third one, the correlation gap. So there is a correlation gap. Risk almost never comes from just one place. It usually a combination, something in finance, something in operational, plus something external factors we don't know. And no single dashboard can really connect those dots. You really need something that can see across all of them at once. And here is the thing I really want to talk or maybe take away from this part. Catching early catching the risk early isn't just a nice technical trick. It's a real competitive advantage. So the companies that see it's coming, make better calls, spend less money fixing it, and just operating it with more confidence. So yeah, so mm, how the machine learning model works. So that's what I want to talk about here. So how does this actually work under the hood? Three steps really. Step one, you bring in the data, all the different streams, financial operations, external data, it all flows in. Step two, you train the model on historical examples. The model basically learns what normal looks like, so it's not something doesn't fit that pattern, it knows it. The step three, sorry, is you score it and you surface it. The system flags things in the real time with a confidence level attached. Hey, now under the hood we we usually combining a few different types of models. We have we're gonna say like supervised models. These learn from labeled examples like, this was a problem, this wasn't. It's a pretty straightforward. And we have unsupervised models. These are really great because they catch the weird stuff that nobody saw coming. So things that weren't in the training data at all. So they were not in the training data at all. And then we need to blend both together. So what people call and assemble approach. So because that combination cuts down on both false alarms and misreads. So honestly, both of these mistakes are costly in their own way. So so how we can able to collab calibrating the anomaly detection. So here, let me hear it. So here's something I really want to stress. There is no one size fits all setting for this stuff. So financial data and operational data behaves completely different in any organization. So let me give you three quick examples. The financial data. You need really tight calibration here. So because the transaction volumes, the exposure, the liquidity in the financial data, and it has is in this world, its own world, missing a real risk is way more costly than a false alarm. So that's one. And coming to operational data, is a different story. So the process issues, equipment data, supply chain stuff. Now here the biggest risk is actually alert fatigue. You if you flag too much, people just start turning it all out. You can't do that. So on the regulations or compliance data, this one I can say is a little tricky because the model has to be explainable. So you need to able to say here exactly why we flagged this, because eventually what happens, a regulator and an auditor is definitely going to ask for like what happened behind the scenes. So the lesson here is calibration isn't a set it once and forget it. No thing, it's not a thing. You have to think about domain by domain, and getting it wrong either way actually costs you. So I want to talk about chapter 2, resilient machine learning pipelines. So this is really about the architecture decisions that decide whether your AI project keeps delivering value or quietly falls apart without anyone noticing until it's too late. So we need to be careful there. So the three failure modes that I personally see taking down systems that look great on day one. So trust me. First, silent degradation. So if nobody is watching the model, it keeps scoring things even after the predictions have basically gone stale. That's the one. That's the danger part is everything looks fine on the surface. The dashboard is green, the numbers are just wrong. So we need to be very careful with it. And then second, obviously the fragile data pipelines. So something upstream changes, a schema shift, a system outage, a delay, and suddenly your model is working off some garbage data. So I want to call it, but yes. And there is no alarm bell. It just quietly break. And third one is like obviously the governance blind spots. If you don't have an audit trail for your data, you can't explain or defend a decision the model made. And if a regulator ever asks, like, why did this happen? You need a real answer, not a shrug. So the principle that ties this whole chapter together, of building for resilience, means thinking about the failure from day one. So every layer from the moment data comes into a moment, a production goes out, needs monitoring and a way to recover, not something you bolt on after it breaks. So we have to very, very proactive there. And coming to machine learning pipeline architecture, this slide is just to show you the full picture, the whole pipeline, start to finish, from data coming into the features being built into the model, training into scoring to monitoring. So that's the point. And then the I want to make here is the point I want to make here is pretty simple. A resilient pipeline isn't just a model sitting by itself. So it's a completely whole system, end-to-end, built for reliability and the ability to explain itself across its whole life cycle. So a lot of teams I can see treat the model like is the product. No, it's not. It's a piece in a long chain, and that chain is only as strong as the weak part of it, the weakest part of it. You get it right. So yeah, so how we can able to managing this data distribution shift. Let's talk about something. The trips of almost every day, the data drift. So, so basically, any model we trained on historical data is going to get worse over time as the real world changes around it. This isn't there like a maybe thing. It happens to every single model eventually. Like there are three flavors of this word worth knowing apart. So we need three layers of it. The current drift, the input starts looking different, but the underlying relationship actually is still the same. That's the one thing. On the concept drift, and this one's is a little bit more serious than the before because the actual relationship between the inputs and the outcome has changed. So, and the third one obviously is a label drift when even when counts as risky has it has shifted over time. The definition itself it's moved. It's label drift. So, and the way you deal with all three is basically the same loop. You detect the drift by watching the stats. You restrain automatically when it really crosses a threshold, and then you validate it and redeploy. Test it, operate, and push it to live. So that's the steps we need to take. Then and that needs to be in a constant loop. Not something you do once and walk away. So you can't do that. And the chapter 3 is obviously evolving the legacy BI, the legacy business intelligence. So this is the practical, real old path. How you move from old school reporting towards AI driven decision system. That's what I want to talk here without just ripping everything you have and just starting over. No, I don't. No organization wants to do it. So because realistically, most of aren't starting from a blank state. You have got existing systems, existing teams, existing habits. So let's talk about what actually gets in the way. So the technical debt, the old data warehouses, clunky reporting tools, fragile pipelines that break. If you look them wrong, all of that make it genuinely hard to board modern AI on top. It's genuinely hard. Trust me, I did it. I'm doing it, so it's very hard to for my team, for my analysts, for everybody. So it's genuinely hard. So we need to have like second one is organizational, inertia. Teams that have run the same reporting cycle for years and years are naturally going to resist moving to something continuous and model driven. I think this is honestly more of the people's problem than a tech problem. That's a pretty big problem. So we can talk about it later. The governance gap. So this is one of the biggest things. The older systems often just don't have the data, the lenience or access control you need to deploy the AI responsibly. So you can't build something trustworthy on a shaky foundation. So it's just not the IT project. It's like you need to have executive backing, the clear milestones and the numbers you can actually measure. So that's the biggest thing. Um, and how we can able to integrate AI without replacing everything. I want to be really direct here. You almost never need to replace your whole platform. Honestly, trying to do that usually backfires. We can go for a layered approach. We need to go for a layered approach. It works much better. We need to add AI capabilities on top of what you already have step by step. Layer one, data foundation. Get clean, governed access across your existing data sources. Like boring, I know, but absolutely essential. So layer two, the AI augmentation. So start adding machine learning scoring and the anomaly flags alongside your existing reports. You're not replacing anything yet, you're just enriching it, the reporting that we already have. Come to layer three, adaptive intelligence. This is where you embed self-improving models right into actual workflow people use every day. So this is where things really start to feel different. When you do the layer three, the key word is it is like progressively. You don't need to do it in overnight, but honestly, you shouldn't try to. You don't do it in overnight. That's the one. And let's take it like into the second to figure out where most companies, actually sit here using a simple five level scale. I'll spend a little bit time here. Where most organizations are today is level two or three. You got your dashboard, your real predictive power is limited, and your data is still different. You Lloyd. If that sounds like you're honestly in the majority, not behind. You're not behind. So I just want to talk to like the hardest jump is going from level three to level four. That's the biggest jump here. That takes real investment, especially in the machine learning infrastructure, in governance, in actual operating these models day to day. So it's the toughest step, but where the real value shows up, that's where the real value shows up. And the level five is fully perspective is still kind of inspirational for most companies, but some early moves are already running gigantic risk workflows at that level. So it's not science fiction, but it's happening. Just not everywhere yet, but it will be in the future definitely. So I genuinely encourage everyone here to be honest with yourself about what your own organization sits on this, and that honestly is really the starting point of any real plan forward. Just put a plan forward. Let's looking ahead. What we are looking ahead? LML, LLMS, and agentic AI. Yes, let's look ahead for a minute. The large language models and agentic AI are really starting to show up in enterprise analytics. That's why I want to be very precise about this. So they're not replacing machine learning. They're just sitting on top of it as a kind of reasoning layer. And I can say like three things the emerging right now that I think are really worth watching here. Natural language querying. Analysts can just ask a question in simple English instead of needing to know the SQL. That opens this up a lot for more people. Everybody's patient. The model takes all the numbers and actually writes the summary for you. You don't have to do that. A board member would already risk report with written automatically. It's can able to written automatically. And then coming to the agentic orchestration or correction. This is the wild when you come to like autonomous agents that really monitor that, like even escalate the risk signals with barely any human involvement. They can do it. All I want to say is like, so this is the frontier. This is the frontier. Honestly, it's closer than people think. Is very closer than people think. So want to say like key takeaways. I just want to say, okay, let me wrap this up with four things to remember from this particular speaking. Is more upstream. Stop really spending all your investment on looking backwards. You don't want to look always the backwards. Put into like catching risk before they show up, and build for resilience. And treat your machine learning pipelines like a real product systems. They need to be monitored, governance, and the plane for drift, not a science experiment. We need to evolve. Don't replace anything. Layer AI on what you already have, step by step with milestones. You can actually measure. You don't need to rebuild everything. So get ready for agentic AI. Start looking at where large language models and autonomous agents fits into your risk stack right now, because this shift is coming faster than most people expect. Most people expect. So be ready for it. And finally, Jasmine, that's it from me. Thank you so much for the time today. I just want to give a quick recap of the journey. We talked about where traditional BI falls short. What AI actually changes. Went a little bit deep on catching risk earlier, and building pipelines that actually hold up. And we talk out through a real path for upgrading the legacy systems, what we have today in your organization or in your company or in your own thing, and closed out with where this is all heading, like the language models and then the agentic AI. So yeah, so this is what I would like to really present and talk about. If you have any questions, just taught me after about, thanks again. Thank you so much.